not used to seeing something that large in your face? Wow.
Yeah.
Our microphones here at KCast Radio have a lot of girth to them.
They seem more girthy this morning. Have you done something to them? Now I need to back off. Where's our screen? Where's the protector?
Well, we went to Vituro Health and got things checked out, and no, it's all good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Eventful day yesterday.
It was, and it looks like an eventful day today, too. I just tweeted out today, the Queen turns 95 today. And on this day in history, Prince died on this day 5 years ago. So it's a royal pain in the ass kind of day. It's a royal day, Prince and the Queen having the same
I feel
day.
like I forgot the Prince thing.
Yeah.
It's happening
I thought
too
it was
fast.
10 years ago, to be honest with you. It's one of those things
really?
where I was like, it was only 5 years ago? 2016, yeah, he died.
I feel like so many things are happening, and not just musically, just, I don't know. I feel like I can't keep up. You know, they were talking about yesterday, you know, the Black Lives Matter protests. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is about my brain, but this is terrible to say. Not that I forgot about the protests, but I was actually forgetting just for a second why these protests started. Mm-hmm. It was for George Floyd, of course, but it seems like they've been going on for so long, and they haven't been going on for so long. Mm-mm. It hasn't been that amount of time, that much time.
No, I mean, it's been around obviously longer than
yes.
George Floyd, but it really came to the forefront almost a little over a year ago. And, you know, when I saw the guilty plea, and I said, God help us, yesterday, I tweeted, I wanted to see justice, obviously, and justice was served. Most people believe he was found guilty on all three charges. And then you just kind of wait. And so it feels like we've moved forward. Listen, racial inequalities in this country have been going on for hundreds of years. It's not gonna be one case. It's not gonna be one case of justice. It's gonna change everything and turn everything else on its ear. It's gonna have to be a gradual changing of that situation. And so to see that, I was heartwarmed. I don't ever celebrate horrible things for anybody. The death of anybody. The Pelosi thing about her saying, you know, thanks for I forget what her direct quote was, but thanks for your life to create justice or something, and she got blown up for that. But at the same time, I do feel like we moved in a forward direction. I told you yesterday, and I'll even back it up. I think if this happened 10 years ago, I'm not sure if he's found guilty on all three charges, just because I think that we're starting to see that groundswell of support for what this is at a much bigger level.
And two things stuck out to me. One, I thought the Attorney General made a really good statement. I love good statements. And he said, this is not about justice, it's about accountability. Mm-hmm. He said, because justice, a life is gone. A life is taken. So that's not justice because somebody was killed. Yep. So I think that was important. The other thing, and I don't know if you all experience this, you know, they keep talking about particularly individuals. George Floyd's brother, you know, he was crying at the end, and they immediately had cameras in front of him, and they asked him, you know, what are you feeling right now or something? And he said, I finally can breathe a sigh of relief. And they started interviewing people, and you heard this over and over and over again. And I don't think it was an imitation of, you know, what George Floyd's brother said. This for a year, there's been tension. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I got to tell you, when I was at another place, and everybody had their phones. This reminded me so much of the Rodney King, of just, you know, O.J. Simpson, where you have your phone, you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. And frankly, before it was even said, I felt the same thing. I felt this like, okay. Now I know you tweeted or you texted me or you said something like, now let's see what happens. Yep. So just, you know, let's stand back. Well,
and it seems like we've kind of kept it in check a little bit. I mean, for the most part, there haven't been widespread rioting across this country, and that's a wonderful thing. And so that makes me think, okay, we have moved forward. I'm not sure what that forward is, but we have moved forward in this particular case. And obviously this subject is so broad because, you know, it's about the police as well. And I saw a picture of Budweiser posted a picture. They have an 18-wheeler that says we support law enforcement. That's great. Good. I mean, this is not about okay, all cops are bad. There's good cops, bad cops. There's good chefs, bad radio shows, good radio shows. There's all those things. And so, yeah, we do continue to support our law enforcement, the good guys, the guys that do the right thing, the ones that protect us, the one that you know, my friends. And so, from that standpoint, it's so broad. I do think that there's latchers on. There's people that have their own agendas because it's such a broad topic. And so I think a lot of people are trying to use their own platforms to use those agendas. And I was talking to Brandon before the show. I'll never know what it's like to be a black man. I can be compassionate, I can be empathetic, I can try to understand, I can listen to you, I can do all those things. The tweet from Britney Spears, she's getting hammered, and I'll have to read the exact quote because I want to make sure I have it right.
I did see the Demi Lovato ice cream shop thing, by the way.
Did you see that? Yes. Yeah.
Here's what I don't understand is, and please educate me because I don't really see a difference. And let me start out with this. I agree with the verdict. I believe in our due process and evidence, and the verdict is the verdict. So I agree with it. Okay. So, but what's the difference in police officers making mistakes? And I want to make sure I get my words right because I don't want to
just say it,
making mistakes and taking a life, maybe mistakenly, right? Because it was unintentional murder too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reckless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in a police officer making a mistake and doing that and a doctor making a mistake and someone dying? Because there's almost 220,000 people that die from wrongful medical procedures, but doctors don't.
Yeah. So I think there's
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things.
Is that
well? First of all, there was a use of force.
Yes.
In the police officer situation, so it's a totally different situation.
According to the training person, it was a use of force that was trained to do.
Right, but so yes, and you could even make the argument. Although here's where we need a lawyer standing right here.
Yeah.
The use of deadly force to protect themselves, the officer who felt that their life was at risk, or the use of deadly force to protect others. Because if we're going to go down that route, it starts getting really narrow there. Again, if we're comparing it to a physician. So a physician who makes a mistake, if you say a police officer makes a mistake, physician's making a mistake not to protect him or herself. They're trying to save a life or trying to help somebody. I think that's in part where it's different. I think the other part, this is crazy to say this, but when you go in for surgery, you sign a piece of paper that says, I realize that there are risks associated with this surgery. You don't sign it.
There's good surgeons and there's bad surgeons.
Yeah, and you don't sign. It doesn't say in the consent, I recognize or I accept the fact that the surgeon may make a mistake. It doesn't say it that way. But I think there is a difference because the use of deadly force versus the use of deadly force to protect oneself versus the use of the making of a mistake to try and save a life or try to help somebody. So I think it's different there. The other thing that has been talked about over and over again this morning, and again, I feel like...
let's back it up a little bit. If you're a surgeon and you're supposed to amputate the left leg, not the right leg, but he's working on the right, and the patient keeps telling you, it's the wrong leg, it's the wrong leg, it's the wrong leg, and he does it anyway, then you're talking about...
First of all, the patient's not going to tell you.
Yeah, the patient's like, or a nurse saying, doctor, it's the wrong leg, it's the wrong leg, and he continues to do it anyway. Do
you know what we've changed? I mean, it's been years and years, but now they write on, and it hasn't been...
Well, they ask you 15 times.
No, they do. And then once they do, they literally write on your leg because everything's covered up. This is the leg that goes. Go do Britney Spears because I want to talk about this.
Showed a picture of a black man holding a sign that said, white people have generational wealth, black people have generational trauma. # we are not the same. And then she wrote just saying with a couple emojis, and she's getting hammered for it.
For which part?
Well, I mean, she posted the picture and that's fine, but I don't want to see that from a white person. Not a person that is wealthy beyond their means that has every type of resource she possibly has. This is one of those things where as a white person, I need to step it back. There wasn't really a whole lot I could have said yesterday.
Right.
Twitter was crazy. If I had posted anything and I was going to say something, if this was 10 years ago, it may have been a little different. I knew people were going to be just hammering at it, so I just kind of laid back and watched. But as a white person going through this, if you want to see racial equality and you want to see us get together, hammering white people, demonizing white people just because they were born that way is not the right way to go.
Not as a white person.
So that's where I'm kind of like, and I there's white people saying we're being demonized just because I was born white. No,
that's
you're
not.
And I don't even like the word privilege, because there's a lot of outliers, a lot of white people that have it super tough in this country too.
But again,
this is not about.
But white privilege does not have to do with you, a white person who has it tough.
The point is if you're born white in this country, you have advantages.
You have an advantage. If everything else is the same as a white person, you have an advantage.
In what way specifically?
Job opportunities, education, healthcare. On average, let me emphasize that. On average, what that means is it doesn't mean that we can't say you're a white individual who didn't get a job because, somebody looked over them. It's not about any one condition. Any one race. What it says is all things being equal, if you look at the data is very clear. Blacks and people of color, black people and people of color have less access to health care, are less likely to get jobs, are less likely to get paid equal. The data is, it couldn't be more clear. I think the hardest thing for us to understand or accept as white people is exactly what some of the tweets are. Well, what about me? That's not my case. No, it's not your case specifically, but it is on a whole. Why does it happen? It happens because of generational discrimination. That's why it happens.
So let's talk about instead of race, let's talk about a culture which transcends race. And I think that there's a cultural privilege where I think poor people have less opportunity.
But even within that, I agree with you. So there's another another
it's
generational
about a culture, not a race.
Generational poverty is also a problem. But even if you take on average, this is not any one case. If you take equally poor from a socioeconomic status, if you take equally poor white and equally poor black, on average, the black person is going to have a disadvantage.
But we can both agree that the United States is one of the best countries that you can pull yourself out of poverty over one.
Yeah, but not race. Not race.
Well, no, but I'm saying whether you're black, white, or Asian, if your family was poor a generation ago or 2 generations ago, the U.S. is the country to pull your family out of that.
Yes,
by the choices, by the responsibilities that you take.
But
as
even
an individual.
that's as an individual. But that's the whole point. Is if you talk about it as a race,
but it also makes it much more difficult.
Yes, that's the whole
for
point.
that person that wants to pull themselves
Everything's
out.
difficult,
no,
guys.
no, not everything. It should not be. It should not be more difficult for me as a black person than you as a white person. All other things equal, to be able to move forward. And again, I'm not talking, this is not my opinion. If you look at the data in terms of the number of black individuals who are in certain levels of certain socioeconomic levels, again, education, healthcare.
But you got to also look at the numbers before that, right? You got to look at the numbers of high school graduations, of premarital pregnancy.
Right, but look, it's okay. But here's where it goes back. But here's where it goes back. And this is the difference. And this is why it always goes back to it. It goes back to number 1, slavery. And then number two, systematic discrimination. Again, right now, maybe not. Look at the 1960s and 1970s. Go back, 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Poor education by law, inability to have jobs, inability to have equal health care, all those things. And so what happens is, generationally, this passes on and on and on. And I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, in your defense, we're not saying that you.
I know.
We're not saying you can't be. You could be irresponsible and unaccountable and not do it well. I think what his point is on average, if you take a black baby and a white baby and you give them the exact same resources, the same social economic situations, the same cultural situation, everything's the same, that watch out has a much better shot at making it shot.
That's important.
But accountability is certainly part of that, responsibility. I mean, we can go back to Bill Cosby when he came through. This is before all the Bill Cosby went down. Got just absolutely hammered. He spoke here in Birmingham about, blacks need to pull up their bootstraps and take responsibilities and take advantage of all the things that are afforded to them to be more successful in life. And he got booed for it. So I can see both sides. And of course,
Morgan Freeman says the same thing. He says he grew up in the 1960s, 50s and 60s in the ghettos of Memphis, Tennessee.
Absolutely.
He said,
it happens.
He said, I got on the bus and left.
Yep.
Yes, but he did. So that's, again, this
Why
is one.
Can't everybody?
Because not everybody has the opportunity to get on the bus. Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. If you don't have the means, if you don't have it, not everybody
can. Have the means.
But he is one person. Not everybody has that chance to do that. What if you're taking care of your family? Morgan Freeman may have not. What if you've got a sick child? What if I can go scenario after scenario.
There's outliers. There's outliers.
Absolutely.
There's extremes in everything.
Absolutely. And that's why
it's a great story. And it's a story that we should look at and go, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. If that influences someone to make that change in their life and get on the bus and
Here's
leave,
the only thing
then it's
I
great.
disagree with the George Floyd situation. Again, I reiterate, I agree with the verdict, and I agree that Derek should serve the time that he, you know what I'm saying? Here's what, and I was telling this to Tony earlier. The only thing that scares me is people putting George on a pedestal as if he was MLK.
Yeah, I don't think
whether he's black, white, or Asian, he was a pretty shitty person.
Yeah, but yes, and that's why I think it's even more important lesson. This is why I think it's a more important. I agree. It's a more important lesson in our society. A person does not deserve to die in that situation. No matter, we talked about no matter how bad they are. Let me finish that second. Yeah. We talked about a story of emergency room doctors or surgeons. ER patient comes in, it's got swastikas all over him, white power, all that kind of stuff. And the docs are a black guy, a Jewish woman, etc. and you're looking at this, and this happens all the time with ER docs. They can't say, I'm not going to help you. And then in the same way, that's what I think about, is that he did not deserve to die. He may have deserved to be arrested. He may deserve all sorts of things. Here's the thing that I think is, they were talking a lot of conversation about this. What makes this so different? And this is what some of the concerns are of individuals who are pushing for better policing, better laws, etc. This was not a use of deadly force shot. Somebody was shot by mistake or someone was shot intentionally. Part of the reason this went down the way it did is we all got video of 9 minutes to make our judgment.
Sure.
And what they were saying was, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like that is a rare occasion. So I think a lot of people are concerned about, is this going to only happen because it was so blatant, because it was so long, and even I heard this morning, because so many people were able to influence and protest.
Eric Chauvin wrote down the number of his lawyer on the back of his hand prior to the verdict, just in case he found out that his bond would be revoked, so he'd have his number. He could call him from prison. So people saw him writing something on his hand. I thought that was kind of interesting. So as a little bit of a prophecy, the fact that Derek Chauvin was actually writing down his lawyer's phone number on his hand, sure. He probably saw the writing on the wall and figured he was going to spend some jail time. Now it appears he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. I texted you yesterday, and you went psychological on me.
By the way, let me just say this. The way you just described this is terrible to say.
And I have a story. Go ahead.
I thought he was writing on the back like, this is terrible, like an endorsement.
No.
Show it to the camera.
No. Well, not for that lawyer. I don't know if that lawyer is going to be getting any other cases.
I got arrested for an expired tag ticket that I did not pay.
Yep.
Okay, so I had a bench warrant out
Shame on
for
you.
my arrest. Right.
Shame on you.
Criminal.
That's a white crime right there.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Actually, no, it's actually no.
That is that end. We go all the way back to the same conversation, but I'm not going to go there. Go.
So I get pulled over by Mountain Brook. And they put the cuffs on me. I'm like, oh man, expired tag. Guys, I'm not a criminal. Technically I am. But anyway, so they take me in. You know how they take your wallet, your keys, your phone, everything.
You're
right?
dope.
So I'm in the holding cell.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm in a holding cell, right? I get a little buzz on my Apple Watch.
Oh, they didn't take your Apple Watch?
They didn't take my Apple Watch, and it was still connected to my phone. So
jeez.
I'm in my holding cell texting my mom, and she's there in like 20 minutes.
Mom.
This is such a white crime.
I
get arrested. I'm in Mountain Brook. I'm in a holding cell. I have my Apple Watch, and I'm texting my mother.
Yeah.
George Floyd
Mother.
didn't have that Apple Watch.
No.
Yeah.
It's and she's there in like 20 minutes. The cops are way confused how she got there so fast and how she knew. But yeah, I had a little loophole there.
That would be white privilege.
No, that's called buying an Apple Watch. And
we were talking before the show about how we wanted to get into this, the different angles. We want to talk about the.
By the way,
Derek
I need
Chauvin
to
thing.
get some Kurre and Klapow stuff because
There's a coffee mug
Yeah,
over
but
there.
you know my family says that when I take a drink out of this, they look like I sound like a baby sucking on a bottle.
You are a baby sucking on a bottle. I'm sitting there watching it again. I'm not black. I'll never be black, so I'll never understand fully what the black community goes through and how
right.
and it was wild because I was watching Lester Holt, who's a black man. I wanted to get his viewpoint on NBC last night, and he was like, it seems like there's more of a sigh of relief than a celebratory situation. And I know there's people that were hugging and celebrating the fact that there was a guilty plea, but then it kind of sunk back in. Okay, we've still lost the life of a man here, and the justice has been served. And then I get up, and the first thing I see is Al Sharpton. And I don't know enough about Al Sharpton.
Yeah,
I've seen him speak a million different times. I know he said some things that I know some black people don't like Al Sharpton. I know white people don't like it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if we're going to have this new movement, and it's going to have to be incredibly gradual and take years in order to get to where we want to be, if we ever get there, they need a new face. Black Lives Matter.
Listen to what you just said. I got to stop you. And I know you say this with good intention. It's going to be gradual. It's going to take years to get there. And I think that's what people are saying. It's been years. It's been, you can say hundreds of years, 100 years. And
when you say we've moved more in the last 2 years than we've moved probably in the last 20, is my point. And it does feel like, right, everything from Black Lives Matter on NBA courts to everything else. I was talking to my son yesterday. I said, we were supposed to start moving in the right direction after the whole Colin Kaepernick situation, which was 3 years ago.
That's right.
And I said, do you feel like we've moved forward? And he said, yeah, it's been super, super tough when you're breaking through these types of barriers. It's not going to be a light switch. It's not going to be an overnight thing. There's all kinds of different jurisdictions and different laws that are coming into to play here, and all kinds of different justice. And so I do think we're moving in the right direction. Again, it's gonna be a fight that we're gonna have to get behind and push through for years. It's not going to be something where by next year it's going to be okay. And I think black people and white people realize that the same.
Black people realize it even more because they
My whole point though with Al Sharpton is I've been seeing him and Jesse Jackson speaking for 35, 40 years, and I'm kind of like, is this really the face you want to have? Listen, they got a microphone. They can do whatever they want. They've got the money. Al Sharpton getting on a private jet to fly to.
I think
they don't want racial equality in this country. Those two guys.
A lot of people would say they make their money because there's racial inequality. I don't know, and I don't want to go there.
I think you cannot, absolutely cannot say that. It's your opinion. You can have your opinion. You don't know what motivates them.
It's the same people that say we don't want to get rid of cancer because there's too much money behind it.
No, but you can't. You can't. Well, of course, what motivates the hate? Generational hate for black people. Like that. That's the thing. I think we as white people absolutely. We don't know what generational trauma is. We will never know what generational trauma is. No. We don't know as white people, as whites. We don't know what it's like as whites to be systematically discriminated against because of our race. Now again, I'm a Jew.
Wait a minute.
I'm a Jew. I know that's not what I'm talking about. I know what it's like to be discriminated against because of my religion, but the color of my skin, whether I'm a Jew or I'm a Catholic or I'm a Baptist, the color of my skin, I am not going to have systematic discrimination against me because of my skin. And I think that's part of the problem, or not, it's not a problem. I think, like you said, as white people, we can't ever truly understand it. So what we have to do is, number one, listen. Just listen. Number two, it's that classic. I'll pivot it to relationships. This is I know what you're thinking. No, you don't.
No.
I know what you feel. No, you don't.
Just try to understand.
Try to understand.
Try to understand and listen. And again, that's where I think a lot of white people have compassion, and I think they want to try to understand, and I think they try to get involved. You can show up at protest, just be at the protest and keep your mouth shut,
because it's not about you.
And be there in support of what the movement's about. It's not about you, and it's not about, I understand I'm a white man. No, you don't. You're never going to stand there looking at you going, no, you don't. We thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. But
think about it this way. Let's go. I mean, just pivot to gender, women's inequality, and all of the things that women have suffered, inability to vote. To this day, women get paid less for the same job. Yes, it is.
Not true.
Absolutely. On average, it is. Yes.
We had a Christmas.
Wage. No. I totally disagree. Wage and earnings are two different things. Wage earnings, yes, because they choose other things in life. Men are, and this is empirical. This is empirical facts. Men choose to work harder jobs on oil rigs. They work longer hours.
But why? Why? They choose?
Yes.
Or you got to be careful. They choose, or culturally, women have less opportunity to do that.
Well, no, they don't. Do you know one woman that wants to work on an oil rig for the rest of her life?
Personally, no.
Okay,
I wouldn't, and I'm not a woman.
But there are women on oil rigs.
Yes,
yeah, of course there are.
But this is
more. There are more women in the medical field than men.
Yep.
Not as surgeons. Not as surgeons. They're in nursing, but not as surgeons, not at the top paying level. And you see this. Listen, I work with corporations, and absolutely promotions are not based on skill alone. We can go back to black people. You and I have talked about this. Everything else being equal, if you're a white executive, who are you most likely to promote? Now, what's interesting is, and you see this again, you see white executives and corporations saying we need to promote the black individual. Why? Because diversity and inclusion. We don't have enough black coaches. We don't have enough black executives. So is that right or is that wrong?
Hire the person that's right for the job.
No, I'm saying if both are right for the job. That's where it gets, because I agree with you. I absolutely agree. If somebody is more qualified, you should hire them. But one of the things that corporations are dealing with right now is, and again, we've seen this with coaching in sports. What do I do if two people, same gender, I'm not going to, because we see it man versus woman, but same gender, different color skin, everything else being equal. I can go with my preference if I'm in the hiring position, but there is pressure to hire the minority. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in fact, there are tax breaks, there are incentives to have more diversified workforce, because it goes back to the same thing.
So let me ask you this. We can look at sports, college football, pro football, the NBA, and say that black people are better athletes. They're better. And how's that racist? How is that racist to say something someone is better?
It's not.
It's actually opposite of racist.
If you want to take a black man and a white man in a race, and he's faster than the white man, then you can sit there and say he's a better athlete.
Well, how do you?
But that's a more.
Okay. So because you're stuttering over your words.
No, because I was going to say you just use those sports. So is swimming? Are white people better swimmers?
No, I'm saying that most of the major sports that people watch.
Hockey.
Yeah.
Okay, I said most, not all. Listen to my words. I said most.
What's the one with the
Olympic sport?
Yeah.
Curling?
Yes, curling.
Yeah, where's the black curlers?
That's
at,
a white
for God's
privilege
sakes?
Sport.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my question is, listen, I think it's a compliment to say that black people are better at sports. Why is that a bad
because
thing
I don't
to say?
know because I don't know if it's a if it's empirical. What I mean by that is, if just because there's more black people in the NBA, the NFL, so let's go broader because here's the problem. We're so classic U.S. Go broader, go American, go soccer, because that's a global sport.
Sure,
more black people, more white people.
There's actually less white
color.
people than anything. There is actually the most diverse sport.
Diverse, but not black. No, I mean diverse.
There's way more black people playing soccer. You got to think of the African nations. You got to think of all the South American.
But so does
nations.
that make them better? I think this is a difficult.
You can make an argument that baseball's about as diverse as it gets too.
Why is
Major League Baseball?
Why is it difficult? That's the thing.
No, it's difficult because I don't know the data. I don't know the data.
But what's your point in saying that blacks are better athletes?
Why can't we? If
do we have to have?
Why is it racist to say that an older white man is better at being a CEO than a?
Because
I don't think it is. If he is,
because they're not.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
but that's the same mindset I'm saying about the sport.
No, but he is. But the difference is, again, even in sports. So in sports, it gets interesting. This is why we do the show this way. So in sports, there's been the same systematic racism. Discrimination against generational discrimination against black athletes. Mm-hmm. When did the first out of the Negro Leagues? When was it? Who was the first black?
Number 42.
What? Yeah,
42. Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. So if you think about it, this is the part where
they had to have their own leagues.
I'm talking about right now.
No, but it doesn't matter right now. That's the point. It's general.
Right now is the only thing that matters.
No, there's
the
a
past is done. No, it doesn't exist anymore.
You can't do that. You cannot do that. There's generational effects. If your family, your race was held back, again, use education. Poor education, by definition, by law, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, by definition, inability to get a job, inability to be hired for a job that you're qualified by law. And the problem you have is if that's perpetuated, if that's going on for 2-3 generations, then this is why we have affirmative action. It's exactly that. It's basically
that's
saying
racist by definition.
Oh my God.
Affirmative action.
I'm
is
so
racist
glad
by
I'm sitting back and watching this show.
Because we as white people
trying to make up for our mistakes.
No, we systematically did not allow black people to have the same equal rights. And so as a result, they were less educated. Again, I'm not saying they chose not to be educated. Oh my God, poor schools or no school, less jobs, less opportunity to be involved in less health care. I mean, literally less nutrition. And the problem with that is if that happens for a year, that's a terrible thing. If it happens for 50 years or more, then you got a parent and a grandparent and another one. And yes, Morgan Freeman, he made it out. But on average, they don't. So this is where we as white people, yes, we absolutely made it's not even a mistake. I wouldn't even call it a mistake. We made horrible judgment. To this day, I do not understand as a white person how you ever could have had laws that had black counters and white counters. Mm-hmm. I mean, I bet you can't either.
No, I disagree with all that. I'm not saying I disagree with the whole Jim Crow era. I disagree. I'm talking about right now as we sit right now. When you say blanket statements like racial injustice or systematic racism, if you want to name specific situations where there was racial injustice or systematic racism, I will stand with you and fight that person. But I just don't get on board when people say blanket state. Show me where it is. I don't. Tony, you know so
Birmingham,
many people.
19.
You know any racists?
Oh, don't get me involved in this.
No, Birmingham.
You know
no, but
people,
no, I think Josh's point is that the fact that we even had to go through the 50s and 60s and then 70s, back 400 yards,
of course,
is it's already a seed that's planted in the white man's brain that wow, we've moved a long way, but there is a bias, I think, in a lot of people's brains that it wasn't always this way. Why was that? And we lived by those laws, and so it must have been okay. Well, it wasn't. And so there's still that little piece in there going, well, he's a black man or he's a white man, and I think that's the generational part. And again, that's why it's going to take years moving in the right direction to make that happen.
I think here's the positive thing. I think that we've come a long way in the 200 years that we've been a country, over 200 years.
And we're so young.
So young. And y'all have both been out of the country, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You know that racism in America is nothing compared to racism around the world in other countries.
I can't speak. I don't know.
I've been to countries where
I didn't do race relations work when I was in Europe. But
I dated a girl from Serbia. There's parts of Serbia
absolutely,
where they still hang gay people in the town square.
Yeah.
There's different factions of the United States that are like that.
And that's like to me, the thing is this: forget the color of your skin just for a second. Mm-hmm. If you said that 50 years ago, 1950s now, 40 years ago and back, we had laws that kept a group of people, whatever they were, from having equal chances, literally laws that kept people from eating in the same restaurants, going to the same schools. I said it over again. And it didn't matter. I don't care if it was, I don't care the color of your skin, whatever. We would now, three of us would go, are you kidding me? Forget that. I'm not going down the gay route right yet. But we would go, that's insane.
Are you coming out on the show?
No.
Oh.
I was thinking about gay marriage. And that's a whole, we don't have to table that one.
That's too much.
That's too much. But that's the thing to me, and it is the thing that I think if you were born after all of those, after Jim Crow era, it's easier for us to say, well, that doesn't, and I'm not saying we're taking a blind eye, but saying, look, that doesn't happen. But the fact that it did, it set people back so far. That's the whole point of all of this. Now, the question is, and it is a legitimate question in my mind, and preface this, we talk about stuff on this show all the time that we have absolutely no exact idea what we're talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say, okay, there is a question of when does it equal out? At what point, has it equaled out? Is it now? Is it 5 years from now? Was it 10 years ago? I don't know.
You can make an argument right now. Is right now the best time to be born black in this country?
Yes.
We say as white people. Oh, well, relative to when?
Relative to any other time in the past. Is today the best?
Person,
and is tomorrow better than today?
Geez.
And is next weekend better than today?
As white guys, we should. But if I'm a black, I'm saying yes.
Or will there ever be a good time to be born?
Well,
black
that's exactly. If I'm a black person, which I'm not, I'm saying sure, it was better than 30 years ago, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Is we have to be, particularly as white people, we can't say you got it just as good as us.
Yeah. And listen, we're doing the show as three white guys.
I know.
We really appreciate people letting us talk because this is the kind of thing that we do. We're talking it out. I think we all have great hearts, and I think we're all compassionate towards everything, humanity, period. I was going to mention, we wanted a Christmas party 3 years ago, I think it was, at my family's house.
Can't say Christmas anymore. Holiday party.
I can. I can because I'm Christian.
I can get into that. Believe me, I can get into that one too. That's another one. Look, can we just?
We went to a Kwanzaa party.
Can we have a
3 years
whiteboard?
ago,
I want to do the gay thing.
Why is it a whiteboard?
And I want to do the Jewish thing.
Be a whiteboard. We have a blackboard. Why you want to change it to white?
No, we went, and my sister brought a boyfriend with her.
Did you hear what he just said?
I did. I'm passing over. My sister brought a boyfriend with her that she was dating for a period of time. Nice guy, and we were all sitting in the room. There was probably about 14, 15 of us, and we had a little family trauma going on, a little family chaos. And my dad brought something up, and he was like, we're having a little issue here in the family, blah, 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 blah. Well, her boyfriend was sitting there, and it was a little uncomfortable because we didn't really know him, but she'd been dating him for a while, and so he was inclusive. We were like, welcome into our family, because he was at our holiday party, right? He must have been pretty, she asked, can I bring him? He's like, sure, he's part of the family. And so we're all kind of talking through things, and it was debatable, but it was good. It was respectful. We're all blood. We love each other. And then he chimed in.
Oh, you can't do that.
And he's like, if you ask me. No. And I said, we're not asking you.
Right.
you're compassionate towards it. And he goes, well, I kind of get an idea. And so he took me aside after we had a couple of Jim Beam and Cokes, and he's like, if this is me, but and I said, that's what it feels
Read
like.
your room.
That's what it feels like. Whites trying to get involved in the Black Lives Matter thing. It doesn't mean that we're not compassionate.
Right.
It doesn't mean we believe. Again, this is not your fight. You're not part of this family. You haven't been part of this family generationally speaking. Even if you marry my sister, you're not going to be part of our generation. I think that's where, as a white person, I need to understand or try to understand what the black man, woman goes through in this or recreationally. Now, 60%.
They separate? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
60% of people believe it should be created for medicinal use. They're all about it.
Only 60%.
But 91% said recreational /
Yeah. Only
medicinally.
61% though said, I am blown away at the medicinal part.
That is about 30 points higher than it was just 10 years ago.
No, I know, but yeah.
So, I mean, our thought process, and as of right now, I believe there's only 11 states that you can use it any way you want.
Yeah.
You can do whatever the hell you want with it.
Yep.
And certainly medicinal is kind of like, to me, it's kind of like you can have one cookie. No, I'm going to let you have 3.
No, that's not medicinal.
No, it is, because every state that's allowed it to be medicinal has allowed it to be recreational. Eventually, they're gonna we're gonna see how this goes a little bit, see what happens, and then eventually we're gonna let it go recreational. And then of course it's a small amount. Now you go to Europe, you go to Amsterdam, they've been smoking for years. As long as you're not dealing it, you're good to go.
That's right.
I think it's because I think this is probably the next big thing that's going to happen in this country is the legalization of marijuana, because now it's to the point where you're within 150 miles of going in to get marijuana wherever you want to go.
That's right.
I know you have thoughts on the legalization of marijuana.
It's because all my friends are like in
yeah,
California.
maybe it's because the friends I know that use marijuana aren't particularly what's the word I can say, because I know they listen to the show.
He's dancing around this.
They're
watching.
Say it. Who cares?
We need a close into
What
your
do they do
face.
for society? They're in their 60s. They don't work.
They're retired.
They're roustabouts. They have wives that work really hard.
Oh,
and
I thought
they're
they were
always busy
retired
house.
and living on their pension.
Well, and some of them are as
That's
well.
fine. Then you can smoke dope if you're living on your pension.
And I'm trying to think of anyone that I know that uses dope on a regular basis that really contributes.
Okay, just careful.
Really contributes.
Have your
And I'm not. And again, we're talking. We're talking.
Okay.
I know a guy who used to wake and bake every morning before he went and sold
Yeah.
cars. And he was a hell of a car salesman.
Sure.
You can say that same
that's
thing
fine.
about alcohol. It's
That's-
the
Right.
individual person.
You can, and so I'm trying to understand here. I am very liberal in this way of thinking. Okay, explain to me why you think this should be legalized, because I'm all about. I know how weak we are as human beings, and I know that when we do allow things like that, people are going to partake in those. I can tell you right now, I'm not a smoker. I've never smoked. I've smoked marijuana in the past, but I never normally smoke marijuana. It's not my drug of choice. But I can certainly see where my next generation, my 16, 17, 18-year-olds are going to go, well, it's legalized.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I at least give a shot? Because they're basically saying it's okay now.
Well, there's so many different ways also, like the argument where it's unhealthy for you, which is incredibly inaccurate. I mean, do you know anybody that's died of weed overdose? But I mean, you have edibles.
That's exactly.
You have oil. You have all these safer ways. You're not getting the carcinogens,
Yep.
from smoking a blunt.
Yeah.
So, listen, if you're a drug addict, you're gonna do drugs whether they're legal or illegal. They don't care that they're illegal. People that do coke don't care that coke's illegal. They're gonna do coke.
Well, and that's been always the thing, right? I mean, that's been. I told you this story. You know how old I am. I'll tell you. I'm 52.
How old are you?
I'm 52.
Oof.
When I was in junior high, well, I guess you call that here middle school. So I was in 7th grade. We had to write. I don't know what it cost, but we were supposed to write a paper and take a position on a controversial topic.
Mm-hmm.
This was in LA. And myself and I can think about half my class, we all wrote on the same topic: legalization of marijuana. Now that was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, we were talking about legalization of marijuana. I think the thing that's interesting to me, that if you take, we talked about this the other day, if you take the legalized drugs, alcohol, caffeine, and nicotine, which, I mean, it's not even exactly the same, but I'm going to throw them in there. Okay. And let's just put alcohol over on the side, or let's use alcohol for a second. It's really hard to get, unlike with marijuana, or unlike the THC, to get edibles, to get little bits of it. I mean, alcohol, you're drinking something. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's bourbon-infused candies, but it's not the same thing. So I think the challenge, the interesting challenge is when something like THC or marijuana is available in so many different forms at so many different levels, it's almost as if it's easier to go down the wrong route. Because you can do it in there's less barrier to entry. Again, alcohol.
Why are we using it? See, my point about alcohol is if you like to go a drink and vibe, take the edge off, I'm okay with it. Are you a person where all of a sudden every time you feel a little edgy, you need to pop a gummy? Or is it? But
it's the same argument.
It's the
same argument. Only that's exactly what I'm saying.
Is it a vice for your enjoyment? Is it a vice to get you through difficult times?
That grows in the ground and God created, regardless. I mean,
God created everything, and God created the people that make crack
too. Alcohol is. I mean,
it's the fruit of the vine,
right?
It's the fruit, right?
But it's also processed really.
But it's the fruit. I mean, they've been drinking.
Okay, I'm not trying to compare alcohol. I'm trying to compare like pills, like Vicodin, and all that lab created human.
Do you think we're going to have more drug addicts in 30 years than we do right now if we legalize marijuana? Just yes or no? Yes or no?
I mean,
no.
There's data on the data.
People that are going to do drugs are going to do drugs.
There's data on both sides.
No, but will there be more people? Will there be people that are potential drug addicts because of the legalization of marijuana? Yes or no?
There's projective data that shows it both ways. I mean, I'm going on the
and
data.
That's my point. And again, I'm all about free liberty. I'm all about, hey, listen, you're a big boy. You can handle this. You can do whatever you want. I've seen it. No, you can't. You're powerless. And my whole point is like you said, if you want to go get marijuana, you get marijuana. You put a frozen bag of peas in your refrigerator today, you're good to go, right? And I understand that. It's kind of like legalization of gambling. If you wanted to go gamble, you could always find it. And that's what kind of made it special, quite frankly. Yeah. Now it's everywhere. It's on my phone. It's everywhere. And I see people that don't know how to handle this newfound whatever, vice, fun, whatever you want to call it. They don't know how to handle it. And again, we're human. You're a big boy. You need to be responsible for your actions. You need to do these things. And I'm about free will, man. I'm all about free will. We need to allow people to do this. Again,
well, look here. Let's go. We can pivot off this one. This is easy. Look at
we push envelopes in this country. We will push as hard as we possibly can to go through things. And I know there's going to be people going, great. I mean, the dispensaries out in Denver and all these things have blown up. I wonder if that whole bubble is going to pop one day or another. And I get it. And I'm not being a boo-hooer. If you want to smoke dope every day, do it. It's not my thing. I get that. But if I knew my son was 18 smoking dope every day before school, it would make me incredibly uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And it's legal. Well, it was legal for me to drink beer every day before I went to school too, but I didn't do it.
So here's a comparison.
And I don't want to put that temptation on him.
It's not 18. Is it 18? I thought it was 21.
I was 18 when I was growing
up. You're
up.
Old, dude.
Yeah, I was 18.
Well, and it was
I got grandfathered in. I turned at 21 when I was 19. I could still drink. It was great.
I mean, if we're talking about specifically weed and no other drug, there's no, I can't think of a negative toward it other than if you're smoking smoke like a blunt, the carcinogens, because you don't get a hangover.
Well, from a recreational standpoint, that's what they're talking about. You can smoke weed with the carcinogen in it.
Or you can take edibles.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
I don't know too many people that are looking to legalize marijuana so they can take a gummy for sake of just taking a gummy.
Well, here's
they
the thing.
want that power.
So listen. Here's the thing that makes me nervous as a psychologist. I'm going to go here because I'm getting tired of the legal stuff and boring me. So here's the thing that I think is really interesting. So you talked about, and my dad did this, my grandfather did this. You come home from work, have a drink.
Yep.
My in-laws do this in Kentucky. Have a drink. Everyone have a drink. Not 10 drinks, just a drink. Why do you have a drink? Is it to taste good? Sure, but it's really like just to relax. Everyone says, I'm having a drink to just relax. So what's going to be interesting to me is, and we've said that for years, to imbibe, to celebrate. So what's going to be interesting to me is, do we create a generation? because I've seen this in friends, and I've already heard this in some of my California clients. They've got kids. Kids are driving them bananas. We know about the stay-at-home moms who are alcoholics. Take a generation before, stay-at-home moms who were given Valium, right? Because, okay, so we know about that. And now say, no. But I've got friends who will be like, okay, I'm going to the soccer game today, and it's freaking crazy. 5 million kids running around. They're like, I bring some edibles with me. They're not getting toasted.
That's a huge soccer league. 5 million kids.
Well, fuck it. But they're not getting toasted. They're just taking an edible, right? Now, you wouldn't say, I don't think, you wouldn't say, I'm going to the soccer game. I'm going to bring some beers with me just to take. No. But I'm talking about, I knew you were going to go there, but you wouldn't. You wouldn't on average. It's much harder to do that. So what's interesting to me as a psychologist is, do we start creating a generation of people who may not be drug addicts? I don't care about that, but that literally are limited in their coping skills. They're, and again, I'm not talking about they're going to take 10 gummies.
That's exactly my point. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have medicines for actual issues, anxiety. I totally
that
agree.
Makes me a little concerned. Again, not concerned from a drug addict
because it
standpoint.
also opens the door to when you're taking it regularly. Well, we got another soccer match, pop a gummy.
Yep.
I got to do my kids' homework, pop a gummy.
Again, not a drug addict. I'm not even going that.
But you're also talking about doing it over the course of a period of time as a vice or a coping mechanism, a self-medication coping medics, where eventually it's not going to work.
So answer this hypothetical.
So that you're doing more.
Sure.
Do you answer hypotheticals?
Yes.
Okay,
I answer.
We love hypotheticals.
Love hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So what if you take everybody, let's say United States, everybody that drinks alcohol on a regular basis. Let's take the most extreme where you have alcoholics and then people that drink. I don't drink at all. See, I don't drink
at all. Right.
Yeah.
So, and people that drink on a regular basis. What if all those people put the alcohol down and started smoking weed? Do you think society would be better in some ways?
It'd be much slower.
Depends on what strain they're smoking.
And we'd run out of Twinkies and Doritos.
Yeah, I don't know that it'd be.
People would be less obese.
No,
you're not getting the carbs.
Oh,
you're not getting the calories.
Well, yeah, except you're getting the money.
More creative.
Would we have more car crashes?
Yeah,
I think we have less.
We have.
Well, it's because everyone.
Wait, you're removing the alcohol?
Yeah, removing. The alcohol.
Oh, I see. Yeah, weed only.
Weed only. It took the place of alcohol.
That would be interesting. That's hypothetical.
I think a part of this is, and to your point, there are so many different people don't understand the CBD, the carcinogen part, and the taking it out. They're like, great, legalization of marijuana. Here, take this. And they, like, I don't feel anything. Well, it's because it's they've taken the good stuff out. A lot of people would say, why in the hell are we having a chocolate cake if there's no chocolate in it? It doesn't make sense to even have this. And I understand that. A lot of marijuana smokers are like, this is going to be great. Well, we're talking medicinal use, first of all, or we're talking about we're actually using the holistic aspects of the CBD and the hemp or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know enough about it. That's the other thing is there's so many different varieties of different ways to use this particular drug that I don't think a lot of people understand what.
But many of them are non-intoxicating. Many of them have nothing to do. Like
a lot of people say, why the hell am I taking
hemp milk?
Hemp
milk.
Oh, you got a hemp purse
upstairs. The benefits of weed extremely outweigh.
But when you say weed, hang on. We gotta be careful. Are you talking THC or the plant hemp? You know what I mean?
I'm talking about straight up
THC
weed. Yes.
Yep. Okay.
When you see a guy that has an extreme case, and there's a video on YouTube that I've seen, has an extreme case of cerebral palsy.
Absolutely. But that's medicinal.
That's medicinal.
But we're use
not talking
antipsychotics.
I'm all about medicinal. I use mushrooms. I'm all about. Listen, guy created it. I'm all about using it to make you feel better. That's great. We use an antidepressant. You can't say that
about alcohol. There's no benefits like that for alcohol. To that extent.
For the alcohol itself. So one of the things we know about red wine, actually it's not red wine. Moderate amounts of alcohol, small, have protective factors for cardiovascular disease.
Antioxidants in red wine.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I was actually trying to, again, great show we do. I'm not a physician, and now I'm talking about.
You're a doctor. You're the closest thing we got.
No, but I'm trying to think about is there any medical use of not a glass of wine, but alcohol, the drug.
I put it on wounds sometime to clean them out.
Yes, there you go.
There you have it. And people drink that too, and they can't find the good stuff.
That's some
Whoa.
bad. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Really?
Cough syrup, and then
Yeah, the one thing we haven't done a real good job in this country too is we have not done enough research on just the actual uses of marijuana, just because it's something that's been unregulated for. I mean, it's still illegal nationally. They're
Ask
talking
Willie
about from a
Nelson,
federal
yes.
standpoint now. Right now, if you're using marijuana in a legal state, the feds can come in and arrest you because it's not federally mandated in this country. But each state does their own thing. It doesn't mean it's not illegal from a federal level. I would like to have more research. Hell, we don't even have a way to test drivers. I mean, I know guys that smoke weed. They've been smoking it for 20 years, and they get so high they don't even know where they're at. And I sure as hell don't want them driving an Uber.
Well,
So
yeah,
I mean,
there's a difference between smoking weed and
they're worse drivers than when they
well,
drink.
that's the difference between having a glass,
Yeah.
right? A
Right.
glass and versus where I go with it, and I'm hesitant because of food inequalities and food desert and stuff. But we've talked about the whole thing, the 64 ounces of
Yeah, it's 44-ounce gulp.
4 hours of gulp. I mean, we have an epidemic of diabetes. We have an epidemic of diabetes, and it's not all due to alcohol. It's due to poor food choices. Now,
And we keep doing it.
well, and I carve out. I have to say this, as a public health guy, there is a section of that you have to carve out, and it goes back to our early discussion. Areas where what we call food deserts. There's not high quality food available. So if I put that aside, because that's not the major part of diabetes, we are eating ourselves and drinking ourselves. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. We are infusing sugars, if you will, into everything we eat. So in a combination of that and the big gulp everything, we are literally killing ourselves.
We have shown as humans
Oh,
we are weak.
Didn't the Bible say this?
We cannot.
Isn't there
Yes,
something about the
I mean,
Bible?
we're weak.
Yeah.
We
Broken,
are,
we're weak.
and we're tempted.
Tempted.
We cannot handle it.
No.
When we're given things, there's a portion of people that can moderate, and they're like, I can use this, I can use that, I can do my thing, and I'm fine. My vices, I can do this. This is how I handle my stuff. I'm going to do some meditation. I'm going to bed.
Did you say medication or meditation?
Meditation or medication. And there's a group of people that always take it and they run with it, and they're like strung out within 3 weeks. And there's people that don't want to imbibe at all. 50%, roughly 50%, according to the survey, have never tried marijuana.
Right.
Okay, have never tried marijuana. I don't know what portion of those people would try marijuana if we're saying it's okay. It's legal now. We also know that 30% of Americans, much like Brand and myself, we don't drink. That's hard to
Me
believe.
too.
It's hard to believe that 30%
Yep.
of all people in this country
Don't drink.
anything. It's like, what? When my bars, they do. Well, yeah, you're in a bar. Okay,
Right.
so I get that. I just don't, and I'm all about free will. I'm all like, okay, legalize it. It's gonna be fine. Let's take it a step further. What if we legalized heroin?
Are you going to do heroin if it's legalized?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't,
Okay.
and I don't know most
the
people do.
that are going to do heroin are going to do heroin.
Yeah, 'cause I
regardless.
think-
What if we found out? Okay, let's go something where we know there's some medicinal advantages. Mushrooms. What if we
well, that's what you
legalize
and I talked about
mushrooms?
yesterday.
I got a next door neighbor that I live next to that got a bad shroom, and he hasn't been the same since 1972. He walks the neighborhood 16 miles a day. He got a bad shroom. What if we legalize, if it's got some
Wait, why
medicinal
is he
If
property
it's
to it?
legalized, it's going to be regulated.
Right. So that's the
So
idea.
you're not going to get.
Okay.
You're not going to get that back.
Yeah, well, when my insurance runs up and I can go buy a bag down the street,
yeah.
a lot
I mean,
cheaper, and
not-
that's happening now because the stuff that's being regulated is so damn expensive. Marijuana is a lot more expensive when you go buy it through the dispenser than when you buy it from, Chibut down the street.
I mean, same thing. My brother got food poisoning from Denny's, and he can't eat.
My
at Denny's
purpose,
anymore.
my point is not whether where
can
you
never go
buy
back
it
to
with
a
the medicinal
Denny's.
purposes. My point is we're saying it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Shrooms are now okay.
It's the whole free will thing.
My
It
thing-
is the free will, and I don't trust I don't trust human beings to
Right.
do the right
I
thing.
mean, McDonald's is way worse to the human body than weed is, and McDonald's are everywhere.
I know.
So why are we?
But so again.
But
so
you've seen us. We can't handle it.
well, and actually, that's an
Some of us
interesting-
can, but the
that's an
majority
interesting
can't.
question.
We're
That's-
30% overweight.
But that's an interesting thing. McDonald's, restaurants are regulated. And what I mean by regulated is you can't put, you can't give everyone food poisoning. You can't cut it with bad. So there is regulation. Part of the argument would be we have the FDA, we have the USDA. We do that so that you don't go into a restaurant and are killed because somebody cut the food with something that's got salmonella in it. I mean, so that it's kind of the same argument.
yeah.
It's kind of the same argument. Addiction to sugar addiction.
I want to sit there and say, listen, if I legalize this, that we're going to go, oh, that's not for me, or I want to. But I do think we're sending that message to a generation of younger people that, hey, listen, it's legalized, so if it's legalized, it must be okay to do.